Hey, Doug, you missed some nice weather here last week.
I see the remnants of the snow in my driveway.
We were lucky. It didn't last long.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes, sir.
All right. It is 2 minutes after 7, and let's bring the meeting to order. Today is January 10th. This is the regular monthly meeting of the City Council of Prospect, Kentucky. And the first order of business on the agenda is asking for approval of the minutes of the last regular meeting, which was on December 13th. Those have been distributed. Are there any suggested corrections or additions? Hearing none, I'd ask for a motion.
So move the approval of the minutes.
Second.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? The ayes have it, and those minutes are approved. Next item is the mayor's update, various things. Okay, first, the Treasury Department has just issued its final rules on the permitted uses of ARPA money. There's a big change in our favor. Previously, we had to calculate lost revenue under a formula. But going forward, we can simply presume that up to $10 million was lost revenue, and thus we can use our entire allocation, which is about $1.3 million, for a wide range of government purposes. I'm going to reach out to KIPTA for their guidance to us pursuant to this major change. Next, I have no news this month about either of LDG's housing's proposed developments. Third, the COVID pandemic has begun to affect our staff at City Hall. For privacy reasons, that's all I'm going to say. As you know, this new variant is extremely contagious. Next, I received a summons to jury duty about a week ago to begin February the 1st. I have submitted a written request for either an exemption or a deferral based in part upon what they call public necessity, explaining the need for me to be at Prospect City Hall every day. So far, I have received no response. Next, I will leave it for Chief Sherrard to tell you about the recent criminal activity in Sutherland. 6, I want to mention that I had a nice long email from Laura Taylor yesterday talking about her new job and about her continuing interest in what goes on in Prospect. She's probably watching us right now, and if she is, I'll just say, hello, Laura.
Did she say what her new job is?
She did. She went into great detail. She is an assistant conflicts resolution person, investigates the possibility of conflicts for new associates and for partners. It's apparently a very large firm, international in scope. Sounds to me like she's working for the CIA.
Sounds pretty interesting.
She says that she never thought she'd be working for, in quotes, the man, close quote. But that's where she is. Any questions about any of that? Okay, the Alabama-Georgia football game starts at 8 o'clock. Some of you may want to see it, so let's move on into the agenda. Committee reports. The first one on the agenda is Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee.
Thank you. This is Linda Wardell talking, not Kevin, as appears on your screen. I can't figure out how to change that. So once again, technology baffles me. Anyway, I don't have much of a report to give tonight because our committee did not meet in December, and because of personal reasons, I wasn't able to be with you in November. So I just wanted to be here in person virtually, and I'll just hit the high notes of the report that I sent that I think you've all received. I hiked all of the trails in Harrods Creek and also Mosaputney Pond a couple of weeks ago, and I continue to be amazed at the number of people that are really utilizing our parks. And everyone I run into is delighted at what we've done and the quality of the trails and so forth. In mid-December, the Forestation Board planted a maple tree in memory of Jacob Stover was the young man who tragically drowned in the Ohio River, and a friend of the family reached out to us and wanted to plant a tree in one of the Prospect parks in his memory. And family members were present for the planting, and they were delighted about both the tree that was selected, and kudos to Andrea Hanlon. They selected a maple tree that is red in the fall. And one of the things that Andrea said to me was, in our parks, there aren't very many maple trees. This is a native tree, but this tree will really stand out, especially in the fall when the leaves change colors. It's also right along the path to the canoe launch near the picnic tables. And one of the family members mentioned that he is also a paddler like Jacob was, and that they very often use the canoe launch. So just really good all the way around. We do have a draft report from OHM advisors discussing replacing a culvert near the beginning of the Orange Trail in Harrods Creek Park with a bridge. And this engineering study was included in our budget. We have a preliminary report, and we are hoping in the next couple of weeks to have a committee meeting where the lead engineer on the project, Steve Emley, will discuss their recommendations, the options that they have presented, and hopefully help us make a decision in terms of making a recommendation to council about how to proceed. And I will let everyone know, obviously, when that will occur. We're hoping for sometime next week. I'm still waiting to sort of nail down the dates on that. A couple of months ago, we talked about the need for a rebuild on one of the bridges on the Blue Trail. And this is a bridge that was getting undermined because it crosses a ravine, and there's been some additional erosion. And because of the depth of the stream bed underneath it, Ron felt very strongly that from a safety standpoint, we needed a bridge with handrails. And I'm delighted to say that that has been completed. It looks beautiful. It smells great because it's made out of cedar. And this really does improve the safety of our trails in the parks. I would also like to mention that Ron's crew has done a great job of clearing down trees. You know, every time we have a storm, we have another tree that falls down across the trail, and they continue to clear those. And they've also been replacing poles for some of the trail markers that the poles over time deteriorate. And so every once in a while they have to replace them. And they're replacing them, I believe, with metal poles. So we probably won't need to do that quite as frequently. And finally, as I mentioned in my written report, believe it or not, this June will be the 10th anniversary of the opening of Harrods Creek Park. And we had a celebration and a ribbon cutting 10 years ago on June 2nd. And the press was there, and we had, you know, kind of a nice celebration. So I will be encouraging my committee to think about ways that we can really celebrate this 10th anniversary and make sure that we have some of the people that were there for that first event come back and celebrate with us again. So that's my report for tonight. Yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Linda?
Linda, when was the date? What's the date again of this celebration?
Well, the ribbon cutting originally was June 2nd. And I'm not even sure what day of the week that is. So I don't know if that will be the actual date or if we'll want to adjust it to fit in with everyone's schedule.
All right, anything else? Thank you very much, Linda.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is a report from Mr. Embry and the Ethics Commission.
Okay, thanks, everybody. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Couple of things. Well, the usual thing about reminding everybody to fill out their ethics disclosure, financial disclosure statement. I submitted apparently too quickly because my annual report, or the commission's annual report to the city council, which is required in our ordinance for this year. This last year was a non-election year. And I have a sentence that was left over in something I wrote before that is incorrect. It noted that everything was turned in and prior to the election. Well, we didn't have an election last year, so that is that, just scratch that out if you would. Otherwise, easy year for the Ethics Commission. We really didn't meet. We did have Gordon Costley agree to another term, but is interested in being replaced as soon as we can find somebody to replace him. He's an attorney, and that position has always been held by an attorney. And so in keeping with that, we would like to find somebody as a full commission member who is an attorney to take that position. And finally, the executive order later in the agenda for Nick Nicholson, his position, it doesn't mention it, but he would fill the alternate position, which would be a member that would not have voting power or privilege until one of the other members of the commission couldn't vote. Any questions?
I guess not, John.
Okay, thanks. I'll hit the mute button.
Thank you. Let's see. I don't see Mr. Tucci. the Forestation Board. Is someone else here for the Forestation Board?
I am,
Oh, it's Connie.
but Herb could have done it. I didn't know he was going to be here. 17 trees were planted on city land in December. The number includes 3 commemorative and memorial trees for which residents paid $300 each. A Bridgepoint resident has complimented the board upon the appearance of the 11 maple trees planted along Bridgepoint Boulevard. The city will receive a serviceberry tree donated by Ecotech through a Jefferson County League of Cities program. Thanks to Don Gibson for arranging the donation. The serviceberry will be planted along Sutherland Farm Road, where it has been necessary to remove several trees in the past. Kentucky's Division of Forestry Urban Forester Officer has reported that our tree city recertification application meets all requirements and has been forwarded to the Arbor Day Foundation. The Forestation Board is exploring options for hiring a part-time compliance officer to help ensure that all hazardous tree recommendation orders are acted upon in a timely basis. And this spring, the Forestation Board is planning to set up a plan with our residents to encourage them to plant canopy trees. We're going to share the cost of that. And in the next newsletter, there'll be a questionnaire you can send in order to sign up for this. And we hope we get a lot of signups. That's all. Thank you.
Herb, anything to add? Guess not.
She did perfect. She's perfect.
That's why we had her give it.
Right.
Oh, that's my friend.
It's kind of weird.
Okay, next on the agenda is the US 42 safety study update. Who's going to give that, Herb or Tom?
Well, I'm going to start.
Sorry, Tom.
Herb, I hate to interrupt. This is Frank. All we have at City Hall. Oh, wow, that's great. is Herb's picture. I just got a message from Greg that he's having trouble getting on. So in information, that's where we stand here at City Hall.
Are you talking about Greg
I
Hilton?
don't like looking at you.
But you're the only one we've been able to see through this entire meeting.
Greg, we can see you and we can hear you.
So we have no idea who's on.
Well, Doug.
Everyone's on the meeting with Tom Springer, a gentleman who called in, Connie, Herb, and Linda.
Are you seeing everybody? So I did have a hard time logging in. It just kept spinning.
You have
So
Greg.
I shut down my whole browser and then just clicked on the hyperlink, the web page link, and then somehow got in.
That was Tom Springer speaking
Don Gibson.
with the reverberation.
Thanks, Frank. This is Greg. I did get in, but it took me about 4 attempts.
So we're just missing.
Thank you, though.
The US 42 planning study is, Tom's going to give more detail, but the one thing I want to say, there were over 500 responses to the survey. I know I know the council has received a lot of information from QK4, but the one thing I really think you take good notice, there were 3 questions they're part of the data, and that's where basically 500 people answered them, and that tells a great deal of the story. We had a great response from people that drive on 42. In fact, 90% of the people that responded drive often on US 42. So the comments, but those question 1, 2, and 3 really tell a lot. So Tom, would you want to give some more information, please?
You bet. I'll be glad to. Last time I'm going to share my screen, and I felt it important to highlight exactly what Herb mentioned. I'll give you a second for that to pop up. You see the results of the survey?
Oh, you wouldn't get it now.
Do you all see that?
Yeah, I see it.
No, we do.
Okay.
We do.
Last time we met was in December 10th, and we had nearly 300 surveys then, and I thought that was pretty impressive. And after a couple of pushes through social media and Twitter and things like that by KYTC and also in the mayor's newsletter, we've received a lot more. You see that far right green bar, we received 116 comments right there at the end of the year. So I think that's really encouraging, and we got a lot of great feedback that I've shared with the leadership team. I don't have much to share here today. I do want to talk about the schedule. I think it's important to keep everybody updated on where we're going. We had targeted there in the second line to have an existing conditions meeting in November. We didn't have that until just before Christmas. There's a lot of data that we presented, and it just took a while to get that done. But I'm aggressively getting us back on schedule. This Wednesday, we will have our first public meeting, and then local officials, stakeholders. That LOS there stands for local officials and stakeholders. So that's business owners, homeowners associations, as well as the city staff, and some of you or a lot of you are going to be on that call too. And then that evening at 7 o'clock will be an open public meeting. That'll be similar to the local officials meeting, which is be held at 2 o'clock earlier the day, in 2 days from now on Wednesday. And then we're moving forward with scheduling our next project team meeting, where we review the input we have and think about the alternatives that we really want to dive into and study on how to rebuild and change patterns on US 42. And we're heading forward full steam ahead toward a set of recommendations this summer. So from now until June, first half of this year, we'll be pretty busy meeting and discussing these things. So the other thing I wanted to present to the council is a webpage for this project that we are going to launch Wednesday with the local officials meeting and the public meeting. And this is a very fluid type page, very user friendly. It shows up well on mobile devices, which is how most people get on the internet these days. But it rolls down. It's called a story map. I won't dive too much into the details, but there's a lot of maps, and you can click and just swipe and gather information on speed and travel, crashes and analyses and environmental stuff like that. And then there's a quick recap of other planning studies on affecting the US 42 corridor and mobility around Prospect, and then an opportunity for the public to comment. So it's pretty basic, but as we move forward, we will have another page on this story map that will have the alternatives where we want people to respond to them and weigh in on the ideas that we study. So it will definitely build upon that as we move forward. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Just wanted to give a quick update at our meeting December 22nd. Part of that meeting, I committed to putting out our speed radar data collection equipment. So some of you may have seen that. They're like a briefcase sized box strapped to telephone poles and trees, and they tag people's speed, and we're getting real-time speed information. I don't have that data back yet, but you may have seen those or received calls from the public maybe. And that's all I've really got to report today. I'll be glad to answer questions.
Any questions for Tom? Guess not, Tom. Thank you.
Okay, I'll see you Wednesday. A lot of you.
Forward
Sign
to it.
off.
And next, there's a library report from Sandra.
The number of people using the library is picking up again, and we will be scheduling a meeting after the 17th of January to go back to using volunteers to do our shelving on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. All through COVID, we've done Tuesdays and Thursdays, and it's been enough, but we're getting to the point where we need to get back to normal. Other than that, we'll be talking about our next book sale, and the donations are already coming in at large amounts, and we want to thank people. One of the other things I'd like to talk briefly about is just a thank you. One of our very early volunteers was Eve Hirschfeld, and along with her husband, John. They were instrumental under Lonnie Falk as mayor in having the library come together in the format that it's in right now. If you go back and look at, especially at a lot of our older children's books that are classics, you'll find the Rotary implant in there, and John Hirschfeld through the Rotary, Eve Hirschfeld nagging him, got an awful lot of our early donations for the library. Eve just died this last week, and her passing has really noted by the library volunteers. That's it. Thank you.
Oh, that's sad.
It is.
John,
I
is
agree.
John still living over at,
No, John died a little while ago.
I didn't know that. Well, in other news, while we're on these sad subjects, Olga Boer died on January 1st, and Frank Sims died on December 24th.
Oh, my goodness.
And Ann continues to live over at the, what's the name of it?
The forum.
Forum, yeah, yeah. Just so you know, I've got her contact information if anybody wants it. Moving along into the police report. Is the chief there? I don't see.
Okay, I'll touch on the incident we had last Thursday evening. We did have a break-in to a home over in the Sutherland. We are working the few leads that we have. There was a couple that was spotted in the area around the time that the break-in was reported. It was a couple. They were in a silver or gray later model Jeep Cherokee. There was a black female that was knocking on doors in the area as if she was a lookout. There was we believe, a male in the car who probably actually made entry to the home. We checked video systems in and around the area. We've viewed a number of those thus far. They haven't been very good. Last night, we got a run on a suspicious vehicle in the area again. A license plate was obtained. That vehicle had been reported stolen out of Denver, Colorado. We actually did see the car, but it took off at a high rate of speed. We weren't able to catch up to it. But again, it was a stolen vehicle. We did not see the occupants in that car, but we are working a number of different things with patrol increases over there. We've not had any other reports of break-ins except for the lone call there on Thursday evening. It was relatively early in the evening. 6:30 was the first call that we had. And then the homeowner came home at 8:30 and reported the break-in. So we are following up a number of things that we have. We put that information out to other area police departments to see if they've had anything similar to that. And also the description of the car and the one occupant that we saw. Back to the usual, the house watches were up again like they have been. And I think I told you a few months ago, we thought we would actually eclipse the 30,000 total for the year, which we've never come close to doing that. We actually got 30,900, so we almost made it to 31,000. The previous high was 3,000 less and back in 2019. So we've eclipsed that by over 3,000. The reports of significance, there was a theft of a check. It was a resident here, but the check was stolen out of state, and they actually altered the recipient of the check. It was for a college tuition for an out-of-state university. So you can imagine how expensive that was. Somebody was able to actually alter the recipient of that check and cash it at another state. So we got 3 different states involved. The resident who wrote the check, the university where it was supposed to go, and a West Coast state where the check was cashed. So that one was rather unusual. Then we had another case of theft by deception where a resident paid for interior work on their home. The contractor never came back, did absolutely nothing. So this is not a civil matter. This is a criminal matter because the contractor never did a thing and basically just took off with the money and is no longer in business. And then we had a theft of building material for a home under construction over in the Breakers. And that's the first we've had of that. Other than that, that's all I have. Do we have any questions?
Yes, Chief, this is Greg. Thank you for that great report. On that break-in, how did they break in and what time of day was that, please?
It was early evening between 6:30 p.m. and 8:30. And they broke out a window in the rear of the home.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else for Jeff? If not, thank you, Jeff.
You're welcome.
And moving down, is there any unfinished business? Guys mind? Not, we'll move into new business, and the first order is Municipal Order 1-2022. This is the one that would consent to my nomination of Nick Nicholson to be the alternate on the Prospects Ethics Commission. Is there a motion to adopt that municipal order?
John, this is Frank. I have a question. We didn't receive anything other than Nick's name. Is there anything that is available that would show the people who don't know Nick something about him? Now, John Embry said that you need to be should be a lawyer in one of those positions. I don't know. I've known Nick long.
Can I interject, Frank? This is John Embry. Yeah, this would be for an alternate position. The other position is filled currently with an attorney, Gordon Cosley. He just he's out of state right now. He goes to Florida in the winter, and feels like it would be better if we could find somebody who was around most of the time. But that position is currently filled. Nick is a local resident, and I've known him since I was probably 15 years old. His family and my family were friends, and I don't, I have no question about him, but this would be for the alternate position. He would attend meetings, would participate only if if one of us was unable for any reason, had to recuse, couldn't be at the meeting, something like that.
Well, this is, my question is entirely a process question. We've gone out of our way to make sure that we have an informed council when it comes to appointing people to commissions, to committees, and there seems to be a dearth of information. Now, I've known Nick for 12, 15 years and interfaced with him a number of times, but I honestly don't know what his background is and why he would be suitable for this position. And that's not to take anything away from Nick. I'm just saying, I think that the council should receive something from the mayor stating why this is a good appointment.
Actually, a number of years ago, when Randy Swan and I were working on the committees and the commissions and boards, one of the things that we all agreed on was that we would be an informed group when we made a decision. I know Nick also, but we all talked about getting some kind of brief resume and making it available to people in advance so that they weren't just voting on a name, they were voting from knowledge, at least some knowledge of the individual. And so I have no trouble tonight voting for Nick, but I would hope in the future we would obtain information so that council knows what they're voting on.
I'll just add, I've known Nick for over 40 years, know his family well. So I think many of us do.
If I could just say, like, I know him as well. So it sounds like maybe the council is more informed than we think, but yeah, hopefully in the future, like you said, there are resumes, but it would be great if people have questions. This is just a thought, that they didn't bring it up the night of, because I think Nick probably would have been over backwards to send an on-hand resume or chat. I think we probably could have solved that before tonight.
I agree with you, Sarah, and we have been doing that. This is the first time in quite a while that we haven't, and I hope we would continue to do it in the future.
This is John Embry again. This is a position I've been trying to fill, or been asking for volunteers, and finally I approached Nick to find out if he would do it, because I know he has a long history in Prospect and has served on a number of committees and is a hard worker. So I put it together kind of quick, but that's a position that has been vacant for well over a year.
I move the approval of Nick Nicholson for the alternate position on the Ethics Commission.
Second.
All right, Doug, are you moving adoption of this municipal order that would approve my nomination?
Yes, I am.
And I'll second.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Yes, I'd like to bring up another point. By the way, one of the things that we do as a council is to discuss things. So I hope no one minds if we take a little bit more time. So this is no disrespect to Gordon whatsoever, but I thought I heard John say earlier that Gordon is looking to be off of that committee. So that's okay. So that would mean that we would lose an attorney and we'd be looking for another one. I too know Nick, and I've known him for a long time. I'm kind of like some of you. I really don't know what his profession was. I want to say that I thought he was a teacher, but I'm not sure. But anyway.
That is correct, Greg.
Is that correct? So I just wanted to say that. So before we vote on this, John, if you could maybe say something about, so if Gordon were to roll off, then where would that leave the group? And so how would that affect us?
Well, Gordon has indicated that he would stay until we came up with a replacement. So he's not going to roll off immediately. We would have a replacement available for that position, when he left. So does that answer your question, Greg?
Is it
Yes,
the
sir.
intent?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Is it the intent that Nick would roll into that position?
No,
when Gordon-
not necessarily.
Okay.
I mean, as I mentioned earlier, we have, ever since I've been on the commission, which goes back before 2010, we have always had someone with a legal background. We had Justice Martin Johnstone when I came on, and then later former Mayor Everly, both with legal backgrounds, and now Gordon Costley. So Gordon feels like he should get off, but he's willing to stay until we can replace him. And there's nothing in the ordinance that says it has to be an attorney, but I would like to continue with that tradition.
I do want to make one other point. I remember, I won't mention a name, but we delayed approving someone on the Forestation Board for months because we didn't have her resume. And so I just think, point of order, going forward, I don't have any problem approving Nick tonight, but I think going forward, we should always have, and I think it was the intention, that we always have, the council always have a resume to look at so that we can come to the council meetings fully informed, so that we know exactly what the person's background is, and make sure that they are capable for the very important positions that we are endeavoring to fill. So I just wanted to make that point. Thank you.
Any further discussion? If not, we'll come to a vote. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 All opposed? The ayes have it, and the municipal order is adopted. Finally, on the agenda is the ordinance relating to the proposed zoning change from R4 residential to R3 office residential on property located at 8909 US Highway 42. Before we get any further into that, I would like to make a suggestion, and this is born, at least in part, out of a conversation that I had this afternoon. My suggestion, and I'll explain why in just a second. My suggestion is that the council give a first reading to each of the two ordinances in your packet. One of those would adopt the recommendation of the Planning Commission for the rezoning. The other one would reject it. And the reason that I propose doing it that way, for one thing, you're going to have two readings no matter what you do. And the other reason is that members of the council may need some time to thoroughly consider what to do with this proposed rezoning. Now, I'm aware, then you should be aware, that we don't have forever to do this. We have to act one way or the other on the recommendation of the Planning Commission within 90 days of receiving it, and we received it on December 15th. So that may seem like a lot of time, but it's not forever. Having said all that, we're not going to be able to act on anything tonight, but we can give a first reading to both of these proposed ordinances. And then when the council decides which way it wants to go, it can adopt the one and just let the other one die. That's my suggestion. Having said all that, why don't we start off by recognizing Mr. Whitty, who's been sitting very patiently through Forestation Board reports and so on. Mr. Whitty is a lawyer with Barden, Warper, Talbot, and Roberts. And he has been in this business for a very long time. I'll go out on a limb and say he really knows what he's doing, but you may have some questions for Mr. Whitty. By the way, he's also a preacher. I have that. I think I have a picture of you somewhere, Paul.
I'm sorry, I'm also what?
No, I've got the wrong guy. Never mind.
Oh, good. Yeah, I've never been called that.
Well, I take it back. But please proceed, Governor.
Let me explain that this, as a first reading, it's not a hearing. And your job is to review the record that's been transmitted from the Planning Commission, which, by the way, was a unanimous decision. And this is not a controversial case. But nevertheless, the process is that you will review that record, and then you've got 5 options, basically. You can just accept it, the Planning Commission findings. You can review that record, make your own findings. You can disagree with the Planning Commission, in which case you have to make your own findings. And you can do that through the process of having no public hearing at all, to having an argument-only hearing, or having a full-blown due process hearing with notice to everyone. So if that's confusing enough, those are the choices. But I think you'll find that this case is very unremarkable, and in fact does solve some of the access issues. I represent, by the way, Teresa and Jeff Byrne, who constructed and operated the Prospect Latin School for many years. And I was on the board. Jeff has taken a teaching position at Emory University, and they've moved to Atlanta, to our loss, I think. They're a wonderful couple. But when they sold the school, they chopped off this front 0.65 acres, and what to do with that. So it's quite small as development sites go. It would make a very good In-N-Out burger type of place. I felt very strongly that would not be of interest to the city of Prospect. And an office development with traditional architecture would do better. Plus, there's cross access. As you know, the school now has a right-in, right-out only. So now the school and this office will have a way to get to a light to make a left turn safely on US 42. So I think that has a lot to recommend itself. So, but at any rate, I'll leave it to your discretion to review the record. You'll find that the staff report goes through a litany of comprehensive plans items, and you'll find check marks by all those boxes. And I think as far as the neighbor interest, we had a neighborhood meeting. 2 couples showed up principally just to see what they were curious, and not in opposition whatsoever. So I hope you will agree that this not only meets the comprehensive plan, but R4 single family use is really not an option on this site, and it has not been for many years. So both of those criteria for a zone change are met here. So thank you. I don't want to keep you any longer. And
Before you get off, would you
Yes.
please, for me, clarify what you're talking about with the ingress and egress and how it relates to the Latin School and US 42?
Yes, currently the Latin School has a controlled or access there such that the school persons coming from the school have to make a right turn. And you can freely make a right turn in the school if you're headed towards Louisville. What they can't do is make a left turn. So they have to go down the road somewhere, turn around, not convenient, not safe. Now, with the development of the adjacent restaurant, we have connectivity between the sites such that the Prospect Latin residents can get out on 42 safely, and then the
Before
people
you
that
keep
want to
going,
make a quick
how
right
is
turn have that access from the restaurant as well.
how is putting another driveway with more cars on it going to create a safer US 42 interface?
Well, the point is there is not another driveway created. There's an existing driveway for the restaurant, which we will utilize. And then the restaurant has the option of making a right turn out of our existing site. So the existing road condition at 42 continues to be a right in and right out. Now with the adjacent site, they will have access to get to a safe left turn on US 42.
Why is there an assumption that the restaurant's left turn is safe?
Well, the fact is, there is no option for a left turn here. So at least that has been a curb cut that has been utilized historically as a left turn.
Did you mention, or did I mishear it? That there was you going to have a light there at that turn?
No, I misspoke. That's simply an approved left turn onto US 42.
Okay.
I don't understand the improvement. I mean, right now we're talking about 2 vacant lots because Gustavo's is not developed either. And you're saying somehow by them sharing a driveway that we have a safety feature that we don't have with 2 vacant lots and no cars entering 42?
Well, if you think that the option is that these lots should all remain vacant.
No, that's not the issue. I'm concerned about the fact that 42 is inherently unsafe in Prospect. And I heard you say it would be safer, and I'm interested in how that's affected.
Well, because we will have a place from which our office users and the Prospect Latin School can cross our property, cross Gustavo's, and get to an acceptable left turn area. Whereas now they have to go straight out or not straight out at all, but they have to make a right turn. And if they want to go back into Prospect, they have to then turn down one of the streets further out in Prospect and then come back. And that's not,
Okay,
that's not a good situation.
When I get to you talking about going across Gustavo's, are you going to be entering the drugstore parking lot?
It's on the drawing, Sandra.
No, we're not.
One thing is
not
the chief
adjacent to the
still there
drugstore.
to talk about the rear ends? Because I believe that's what the attorney's mentioning is from taking my daughter to the school. If you're headed into Prospect, there are many rear enders that happen because people pause and they try to do basically this huge swooping left-hand turn where the road is not set up for that. So I think that's what he's alluding to is they'll be able to go down to Gustavo's, make a safe left-hand turn, and then they can make an expeditious right-hand turn out. I think you speak
So
up,
you're
sir, if
saying it
that's
would
not what you're
just be
saying.
wider than what's existing now?
No, it'd be a different access point. So the zoning's already approved for Gustavo's. So I think he might be getting a little beat up for a property that isn't the part he's asking to rezone. But that the only new access point is an existing 10-foot stretch of road that will become the entrance to Gustavo's on 42. Now, sir, correct me if that's incorrect. That's obviously not the property you're rezoning, but I think that's the access part you're talking about. And then Gustavo's would connect per your all's drawing over through your parking lots. That's why you set your building so far back.
We're saying that KYTC has approved Gustavo's left-hand turns, and so they would build on that? Is that what we're saying?
Their comments are in the public record, KYTC. They're the ones who mandated for your clients to move back, correct, sir?
Correct.
That's why we were mandated to have the cross connectivity.
Do you, have you secured a right of way for those, for Gustavo's with this property? You show a connection. It's ghosted in here a little bit, from the adjoining property. Are you suggesting that the restaurant traffic cut through the parking lot for this facility?
Well, that was a concern because obviously we have a thoroughfare through our parking lot. So that creates our safety concerns and such. It's not an ideal situation, but the alternative is worse. The cross connectivity is a very good thing for traffic control and safety. So that, in fact, that also causes to have the variance for the further setback in order to accommodate that drive lane. The thing that we will probably have to negotiate will be whether there'll be cross parking. I rather doubt it, but there will be cross access. It's mandated. And unless that's shown on development plans as they are brought in for construction, neither project will go forward.
Well, the current plan, at least the one I've seen, shows Gustavo has a unique access to the proposed restaurant.
Well, I'm not sure what you mean by its unique character.
Has its own on its own property.
Yes. Yes, it has that. But again, Gustavo's doesn't need us really at all. They could go left and right, but it actually helps our use, and it helps the Prospect Latin School to share that and have access to that.
Mayor, may I make a motion? I move that we give first reading to ordinance number 613.
And that's, okay, you've so moved. Is there a second? I want to point out that there are two ordinances in front of you, and they both have the same number. One of them adopts the recommendation, the other one rejects it.
Okay.
As I explained at the outset, that is so that you can take your time to figure out which way you want to go. You can't adopt an ordinance at all tonight either way because you have to have two readings. So I thought it might be a good idea to give a first reading to both of them, take your time, figure out what you want to do, and then come back at another meeting and give a second reading to the one you want.
Yeah, I heard you explain that earlier. I didn't see both ordinances, but I do move to give first reading to both ordinances, the one approving and the one rejecting.
Is there a second to that?
In the event that we rejected it in the future.
Wait. Is there a second to that motion? All right, then it dies for lack of a second.
Okay, in the event that we rejected it in the future and substantially changed any of these findings, we would have to do another first reading anyway.
That is correct. If you change some of the findings or any of the findings, that is correct.
Which you would
This
have
is
to
Greg,
legally do to deny it, right? So how about we have a motion for the approval of the rezoning?
Can I jump in, Sarah, before you make that motion? Am I still there?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm one of the ones who called John earlier this afternoon. I just want a little bit more time. This is very, very important to me, as has already been brought up by my fellow council members about US 42. So I just want to get it clear in my mind while we have the gentleman, I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name, while you're with us tonight. So I want to get it in my mind what the cross connectivity is. So as Frank said, it's my understanding that Gustavo's will have its own entrance. It's the same road that goes in and out, so they'll be able to come in and go out. And so will this facility. But the cross connectivity, if I'm understanding it correctly, since these two lots are adjacent to each other, I'm looking at the map. The traffic from the PLA, as well as whatever ends up going there, I guess it's an office building, they will be able to leave through the Gustavo's driveway. Is that correct? Did I catch that right?
That's correct. Particularly if they want to make a left turn. If they want to go right towards Metro, then obviously they can easily go the existing curb cut.
Okay, this is Chris. I've got a question. Does anybody know when does our 90 days start to run from, and when will our 90 days be up to either approve it or it pass?
Chris, let me attempt to answer that. Mr. Carter tells me that we received the material, the recommendation from the Planning Commission on the 15th of December. I believe, and Paul probably knows more about this than either of us, Paul Whitty, I believe that the 90 days starts from the date we received the recommendation.
That's correct, John. And if you'll recall, I argued that case before the Kentucky Supreme Court.
Yes, you did, and you won and I lost. I remember it very well.
He was being courteous. He wasn't going to bring that up.
Okay,
Well, he's always been gracious.
Can we go back to, I'm sorry, Sarah, I think you were going to make a motion, so I don't need to step on you.
The 90 days, I believe, starts on December 15th.
December 15th. So
Expires
beware
March
the Ides of
15th.
March. Can we go back to Doug's motion? I thought that was a good motion, if I understood it correctly. And Sarah, I don't mean to step on your feet. Were you going to say something different, or?
Mine was just a motion for approval, just so we could do one at a time. I'm not sure. It doesn't matter.
Can we do both of them at once, Mayor?
You can.
Take two separate votes.
And I came into this saying that I thought that's what you should do. On the other hand, Sandra Leonard makes a really good point. And it is that if the council ultimately should decide to reject the recommendation of the Planning Commission, the ordinance that you have in your packet states various reasons why you're doing that, why you're rejecting it. That could change, which would necessitate rewriting that ordinance and doing it, having a first reading over again. Really, at this point, you can go either way.
Well, my motion died for the lack of a second, I thought.
So I'll do a motion for approval, and then if we want to do another motion, let's do that. But let's move mosey along. If there's a second,
we're going to have to renumber the ordinances, Sarah, if we do that.
Okay, so is that an administrative change, Chris? Can we do 613 as the approval and 614 as the not?
Right. You just
Okay.
make it an administrative change. Right.
Okay, 614 is the not. So I got 613 as a yes. If anybody has a second for moving for approval.
What's your motion again, so I understand, please?
Motion for an ordinance changing the zoning from R4 residential single family to OR3 office residential on property located at 8909 US Highway 42, comprising 0.65 acres and being in the city of Prospect. Ordinance number 613, series 2022.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that we give that a first reading.
You want me to read what I just read again?
I'm not sure. Wait a minute, we haven't voted yet. Motion.
Well, John, we have a little discussion here. I'm concerned that with doing this way. I think there's a pretty good chance, as you mentioned, that in the event that we determine that we were not in favor of this, that the conditions or the proposal does not meet certain conditions, then we would be faced with writing a new, having a new first reading for a rejection. So I don't think we need to move on either at this point. I mean, we're taking a position, at least it would seem so, we're taking a position that we're in favor of it when people like myself who haven't even seen most of the stuff that we're going to be discussing, have no basis to make a fair decision.
Frank, I don't think it's appropriate for me to be responding to your argument. I think that's up to other members of the council if they wish.
I want to say
About the
that
whole-
I forgot what Sandra had said, and that I didn't think about that a while ago. That makes a lot of sense to me to just take a little bit more time. I know here we are in the middle of January roughly, but we do have until March 15th. I'd really like to just take a little bit more time to really understand this fully and then come back to it.
Well, and the truth is, we can always do a very brief special meeting. We've certainly done them before.
Well, we've got a motion and a second. So I think that if the
Oh,
remedy for those
That's
who
right. That's right, Doug. We're in discussion of that motion and second.
if the remedy for those who are opposed to it is to vote no, and other people can vote yes, and we can regroup down the road.
And you're absolutely right. As soon as discussion of Sarah's motion is finished, we'll come to a vote. Is there any further discussion of Sarah's motion? Hearing none, I will ask for a roll call vote. Don Gibson,
Yes.
Doug Farnsley,
Yes.
Greg Hulsman,
No,
sorry,
no,
Sarah Odell,
Yes.
predictable really, Frank Fulcher,
No,
Sandra Leonard.
No,
Oh, we have a 3-3 vote on that motion, so it doesn't pass.
Now, just so I understand, if people, for Greg and Frank and Sandra, again, this is just a question. So you guys are going to need to come up with exact reasons why the planning commission agreed that all of this worked, but why you legally don't think any of that works.
no,
Under your
right
own.
now, we're just saying we got all of this Friday late and we have not had time to review it. Right now, I couldn't tell you how I'm going to vote on it at all. And would I defer to the planning commission? Not based on my personal experience.
So
if
just to
you've
clarify
seen-
for
if
the
you've
public
seen the
listening.
if you've seen the planning commission checklist that was referred to relative to
Yes.
the LDG situation, it's frankly a farce. So,
So
so you and
This-
Sarah,
yeah.
Sarah, for your information, I didn't get any of those emails that you assumed that the balance of the council did, and apparently
I didn't make
you
any assumption. I put 2 dates that I received emails that all of your names were on them. And then the council packet was sent out last Wednesday. I do think this comes back to earlier, and I'm sorry I'm upset. It's because I take this job very seriously and I do the research I'm supposed to do beforehand. And if I don't have it, I make phone calls and I find out how to get that information. I apologize that I'm very upset about this. But yes, Greg, it is a raise your arms moment, because this is one of those you've got to take responsibility and search this out. And I feel bad that the attorney is here trying to describe this, and we are making ourselves look particularly poor. Please check on your emails, check your junk mail, go to City Hall and sort it out. But your names were on all of those emails. We also got the packet last Wednesday. I mean, I've got a 5-year-old who's running around at home and I was still able to do it. And I am frustrated. And I think the public should know that this stuff was out in December and it was out last Wednesday, and their public officials are not capable of going over that information in a timely manner. And I think it's a disappointment to these businesses and a disappointment to the city. So I'll be quiet now, but I have a real problem with this.
well,
Sarah,
Sarah,
I
you're
am-
There, Evans,
You
if
are
I,
incorrect. You are incorrect, because I was not even aware that the December 20 communication was on the airwaves. I got it today from John and he checked, and there's 3 of us that did
No,
not
but
receive
it's an
it. So-
email. So I mean, I have evidence that now you may have had it in a junk mail. That's okay, but you still got it then on
No, I
Wednesday.
check my
You would have
junk
had
mail
it today.
every day. I did
We
not
did
get
not
it.
get them. Okay?
Well, I would say go to City Hall because this may happen again in the future.
No,
That is my
yeah.
recommendation. My honest recommendation is go to City Hall and sort out your
you,
email with John Carter
How can you
because
go to
this could
City
be a
Hall when
problem.
you don't know something exists?
No,
Uh,
I'm saying now. I'm saying from right now, go, because what I'm trying to communicate is I do think there's a problem.
Mayor Evans,
So
may I
please.
interject? And it may solve some of the concern that you have, and it's actually encouraging to see the passion that you have for your jobs, as highly paid as they are. So let me explain. I think there's been some conflating of a hearing and a reading of an ordinance. A reading of an ordinance doesn't actually require you to vote. It is not for the purpose.
That's exactly correct.
Your second reading is your final decision, between which time you have the duty and an opportunity to review the record. If you characterize the vote that you have just taken as an up or down vote on the record, you have just admitted on the record that you haven't reviewed the record that was made.
That's exactly correct.
So I don't want to be argumentative. I just want to point out that you should understand exactly what is occurring here. So I think that if you would simply move to pass make this reading, and you can do as has been suggested, have two versions. Now, I'll tell you that Metro for years, and you may not like the the comparison, but they have a first reading of an ordinance based upon the recommendation that they've received from the Planning Commission. They then review the record that's made before the Planning Commission, and they take the action that they deem appropriate on their review of the record, and they deny it. They don't have a first and second reading of both ordinances. I personally, in my legal opinion, believe that that is not necessary. So I think tonight, for the purposes of your convenience, given the 90-day law, that you consider this a first reading and move it along for your review, so you can then make an informed decision at the second reading.
Paul, I think your points are excellent, but we've already voted.
Yes, well, I think that vote should be considered a nullity in terms of actual taking action on the case. In fact, as a matter of procedure, I think you might be well advised to consider a vote to revoke your former vote. And simply,
We have not taken a vote on the merits at all. We just simply, our procedure and what we normally do is take a vote on whether or not we're going to have a first reading. And that's.
But I think the attorney's recommendation that we don't need to do that is totally correct. And we've only instituted that within the last few years. It has not been a practice of this council over time.
So my goodness, I certainly didn't expect all this, but I made my peace. I hope you'll consider it. I've been doing this for a long time, and maybe I'm slipping, but I don't think so.
Yeah, the first reading, as I understand it, is not that we approve or disapprove. It's just notice. Here's the first reading of an ordinance, and we use the time between now and the second reading to familiarize ourselves, to read the record, to go to City Hall, as Sarah suggested, to ask questions, and then we vote up or down on the ordinance.
Yes, you have time to review it completely, and then also consider, if not this, what.
Yeah.
So that's all within your discretion.
Well, I'm completely agree. To the extent that a first reading is required, doesn't look like we're going to have one.
Well, I would it would certainly suit your purposes to consider this a first reading and move on to your review of the record.
Well, maybe that's your opinion, Paul, and that may be my opinion as well. But 3 members of this city council don't share our opinion. And they
No,
don't want to
actually,
have,
we do share the opinion that we would not vote to make it look like we were approving something we have not allowed to review. I agree with Mr. Whitty. We can have a first reading without a vote.
well, it's fine with me if you want to do that.
But where did we come up with the idea that we had to have a vote on a first reading?
You don't have to have a vote on a first reading. You don't.
Proceed it.
Doug, the answer is that the council has been doing it that way for the last few years.
But there's no basis in law for it. It's just custom.
No, there isn't.
Okay, then we've had our first reading. Let's move on.
As long as there's a second, that's all you need on a first reading.
Well, then we've had that. So we've had the first reading. We've had the second. We had the motion. We had a second. Let's move on. What's next on the agenda?
That's the end of the agenda.
Adjournment.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Mr. Whitty, thank you for coming.
Oh, thank you for your patience and understanding.
I feel like
for
I've learned a lot.
for an entertaining evening.
Roll Tide.
Meeting is adjourned.
Thanks, everyone.
Enjoy your night, Mr. Whitty. Thank you.
Good night.